Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, finally, we are coming back to you with some good old fashioned interviews. I got with me today, as you could probably see on the screen, we got GG from, again, excuse me, Kingdom. Gosh, where's my 68? There we go. Gosh, that's what happens when I don't have my notes in front of me. Slash not looking at the actual Kingdom number. And I have two fantastic gentlemen with me as well today. We have an R5, we have an officer, and we're going to be talking about all things 68, GG, why and how dare they switch over from the best GG name, in my opinion, over to what they have now. I have some serious questions about that, and we're going to investigate it all. Fellas, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself? Coco, let's start with you if you can.
Yeah, I'm Coco. I'm basically the R5 of GG for the past 3 to 4 seasons, and I'm still the R5 going forward, overseeing most of the stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
I'm Jack Ryan. I've been a long-time R4 in GG and currently serving as lead Diplo for this season.
Awesome, awesome. Well, no, welcome, fellas, and thank you so much. Again, there's quite a bit to get to. I know we were talking a little bit before we started. For me, I remember especially the good old days of GG, and I don't know if I want to phrase it as the good. I guess good old days for me as far as name wise. This was back when Timmy was there. Timothy Wiggins was still in GG, and I remember the whole Selly. What was it? The Selly Team Six or
Sally 10-6, yeah.
yeah, man. And
Mhm.
I remember that back in the day, and even the whole. Oh gosh, what was it? It was the whole like TM drama and stuff where like there was the mass reporting that had happened from their side, thinking that you guys with your 7 or 8 flying units were, somehow doing something that was suspect, if you will. And obviously it was effortlessly proven that that was not the case. Uh, but like those to me were just like some very interesting times. Those are some memorable, funny, memorable, and I think good moments as well. Because I remember back then, GG was I think one of the first alliances, first kingdoms that was really using flying troops in this like just very kind of unique, creative way, and really just trying to kind of push some of those entry level limits for tactics and strategies. Now, again, I don't know. I guess I'm curious on if there's any kind of history or backstory there on maybe how that came to be. Was it something that at least at that time Gigi thought, hey, you know what, no one else is really kind of doing this, no one's really engaging flying units, at least in the kind of way that maybe we had thought of doing it with this level of coordination and structure? Is that something that just kind of just came by happenstance, or was it something that where like some thought was put into it?
I think for us, we just at the time, some of our leads are really smart and into it, and tried it out once, and it diverted a huge attention and just made the enemy completely give up defenses and kind of let us steamroll through them, and it just kept working. So we just kept doing it. So it was just, let's try it. It worked, and kind of became a little icon for us for a few seasons of just mass sellies and poking at different areas and just being a nuisance.
Gotcha.
Well,
Yeah, Coco.
yeah, yeah. Also, there's obviously with the name and everything, there's a bit of history. There's a lot of things that happen, obviously, in the background of things. Back then it was Uku that was the R5, and he was the R5 since season one. And basically GG, obviously, that was known as Gang Gang. It was one of the top servers back then, and yes, we were using like the silly Team Six, as we used to call it, as a pretty forward strategy back then. But then long range warfare was introduced into the game the next season, and then the Celestial kind of fell out of flavor, if that makes sense, because it was mostly the flying unit, the Celestials,
Hmm.
and then Eagles got better, Wyverns got better, but they were still kind of they're still kind of useless at this point in terms of fighting capacity. But now with all the new archers and all the coordination and everything, Having a huge amount of flying unit now is like not as effective as it used to be, if that makes sense. And also, why did the name change? Well, there's a lot of things regarding that, but for the most part, it was because of a switch. Because in season, it was season B2, I think. The name it was when the name were weird. The nomenclature of the names were kind of odd back then. It was a season where when we met Noir and we fought FSK and NA. You know that season specifically. We changed it. Basically, I changed it to the Gilded Guardian because Gang Gang was no longer Gang Gang essentially. It was no longer like the old most of the old R4 team were gone or were either quitting or leaving the alliance to go somewhere else, which is fine. It's you know it's just people move on, they try different things. Uku wanted to step down. He wanted to literally quit. And I gave him, this his opportunity to take a break, and I took the role of R5, and I just took over. And it was basically I could not change the tag GG because everybody was so attached to it. But I kind of needed to, go forward with a different vibe, a different motion, if that makes sense. That's why we kind of dropped the gang gang. And also a lot of people hated it, by the way.
What? Really?
Yeah. Internally, a lot of people they were like, "Can we change gang gang?" And Uku was really like, he stick to the name gang gang all the time. We kind of make some joke that it could come back someday or something. But like, yeah. So we kind of wanted to go with the idea of like someone suggested good game. It was a pretty awful name, but I just like we put it like temporarily just to say, okay,
Yeah.
how do we team this up? So we went kind of like with the idea of like paladins and knights and everything with like the Gilded Guardian, of course I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Yeah, we have the Gilded Guardian, the Winged Paladin, the Gallant Legions, and Alshan Fellowship. Which used to be honored farmers, but essentially it's all GG, WP, GL, HF. It's the whole team of the four shells. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whoever advocated to change or was not in favor of it, all I have to say is damn them, because it was. I will tell you when. So it's funny because when it initially got changed, I think in one of my top 25 videos, I still kind of gave it a gang for one of them, but it was one of my favorite and enjoyable parts. Which I guess is very minor compared to everyone. Obviously, it's more personally biased for me at that point, but I always enjoyed. It was something I looked forward to when I would do my top 25 stats, and I was like, "Oh man, okay, Gigi's going to be here. I'm going to be able to put it out there." And it was, at least for me, it was always very enjoyable. Okay, so let's get over to for me. I would love to know, I guess a little history here. So I know you had mentioned the transition. We go from Gang Gang to Gilded Guardians. How has, because again, GG, especially if we look at the last 4 months, right? You guys as a kingdom have placed as high as 6, which is where you are now, at least as of the data from February 24th, right? So we're talking about a week ago. Previously, the month after that, I believe this was for January, you guys came in 17th. You were at 10th before, and then the month before that, 8th. As you stated as well, GG has kind of always been, a top 25 alliance, a strong alliance, and a top kingdom and a strong kingdom. Even though there obviously has been some fluctuation, which is not out of the realm of kind of normal, right? I think that's been pretty consistent for a number of kingdoms within the top 25. Some, maybe stabilizing a little bit more, but usually we're seeing some plus or minus on positions month to month. What do you think Coco has attributed to GG and 68 staying a top kingdom, a top alliance for as long as you have now. And obviously, Jacques would like to hear from you too as well. But Coco, what do you feel really attributes to it?
Well, I think we also, in part, it's because our alliances, the switch. How can I explain this? Um, we actually had like a drop, and then it went back up, slowly over time. Well, we kept getting into the same spot, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And it happened basically in a very in a time where not much of the information was available. It was right before the Home Kingdom format was like getting in place, and everybody could see all the servers and see how much capacity they have and everything. And you could basically like look at everybody's servers all the time, because essentially the story of GG back at when it was Gang was that in season one, it crushed they crushed it their season one. In season one plus they allied with the alliance Jalkran came from, and almost most of and Jock could possibly correct me on this, but I think most of their season one merged together into their servers, which back then, fun fact, it was server 83. It was not 68. Okay. Um,
Yes.
that's why it was called GG83. And
Oh, you guys
then
had GG13, right? Or was that
That was a sub.
okay? Okay, yeah,
There was,
okay. Because I thought you guys had two alliances back
yeah.
then. Okay.
yeah, there was actually three alliances even. Like it's kind of crazy. Like so there was basically GG83, there was GG13, and there was also GGTG.
Mm.
And when season two happened, what happened was GG allied with DR89, and they wanted to. We basically wanted a merge between us, but we didn't know how much space we had, that GG had or whatever. I came from DR89, by the way, just to clarify. And so yeah, basically GGTG said, "Hey," they spoke to Uku and they said, "We want to go our own way. We basically want to do our own things." And that was like the first group that left GG as a whole. And those people, you might have seen them or know them because they usually have Pokemon profile pictures on them.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like like Rattata, Oshawott, Meow. You probably seen some of these guys around. So yeah, basically these guys we basically switched place. They went to server 89. We came in to server 83,
Mm.
and then the next season was a season with TATM.
Was this the
And
first migration once Home Kingdoms were introduced, or after?
no, that's the thing.
No.
83 did not migrate out at all at that point in time.
Okay.
And and here's the thing: we fought TATM the next season. We lost, but we had fun this entire time. It was a pretty wild season. It from start to finish, there was always something going on and everything. But then that's the thing. Like there was I wouldn't say internal struggle, but it was like internal debate as to should we migrate out and leave some dead weight behind, because at that point every server at one point in time cleaned off and went to a dead server to keep things fresh. But Uku didn't want to do that. He wanted to stick with 83 at that point in time. And that, like, the next season we got to fight ROE and TS Arkham, which you might have remember Mustard Wolf.
Yeah. I interviewed him.
Yeah. Well, fun fact: Mustard Wolf and we come from the same server, so.
Oh, there we go.
But yeah, well, I'll go over the other details. But anyway, so basically at that point in time, GG was bloated, and we fought like a 3v1. So because Owl was basically zone lock in zone one, and we went in zone four, like knowing that we weren't going to win, but we were just gonna have a last stand and everything. Then we fought NTS, Arkham, and ROE, which basically just all surrounded us, and it was basically the end of that season. But yeah, and at that point in time, a lot of people wanted to leave GG because there was like dispute over the fact that we should be migrating out or we should be staying in the server and everything. So literally at the end of that season specifically, GG split in half. And like most people, like I'd say about we are about like 100 member or so, went to server 68, which was a dead server at that point in time, and the rest of the people stayed in 83.
Mm.
And those people in 83 eventually went to BXS, and then some of them went to pay to win. So they basically went everywhere, all over the place. The other half, which we took some recruit with us, but we still like had like 110 members. Like we didn't have that many, and that was the season we went with Noir. And so that's why basically GG were like we that was like a it was kind of hidden from the eyes of people. Like nobody could see that GG had dropped that low at that point. But we were basically fighting with Noir, and I was fully expecting. At that point in time, by the way, I was like the recruitment officer, so I was like in charge of recruiting people, and I was put in charge of diplomacy somehow. And I was told, "Oh yeah, try to recruit some of these guys that didn't want to join Noir, but they wanted to join the enemy, and they were pretty much shut up on their mind, saying, "Oh no, we don't want to join Noir. We don't want to join GG." So at the end of that season, we basically filled up the people that we were missing with people we recruited from that KvK specifically. And after that, like people were like, "Oh, GG's a dead alliance." We saw them like they split in half, and nobody like they fought with Noir, and Noir carried them or something like that. So everybody was basically looking at GG as the underdog, as the dead alliance, and that was the recurring joke. Like we were called the dead alliance, and then basically our SOS 1 we crushed it, and then it was pretty much some good promotion for ourselves. So we kept going forward, and we recruited more people, and recruited more people, and now we're kind of back in a situation where we're kind of loaded at the moment. So I'm not saying like we're gonna do another split in half and we're gonna go elsewhere. That's not what I'm saying. But essentially, we're at the point where our growth is pretty much where we want to be, and we could even go lower if you wanted to.
Okay. Well, no. Again, thank you for that. I think one of the interesting parts about it, and again, maybe this will be, maybe this will be a question for Jalk, but at least as it pertains to maybe the last 4 months, where there has been some, as I mentioned, kind of positional change. Jacques, what would you say as far as for GG as a whole that has really allowed the alliance and the kingdom to maintain its top placement, its competitive placement, and again, based on what Coco was saying, from the transition periods that happened to eventually moving to 68 from 83, obviously not everything has had to be a cakewalk. I'm sure not everything was easy. I'm sure there had to be some challenges and some hurdles faced. So I guess what can you speak to on maybe the last 4 or 5 months on having, like I said, some of those position fluctuations to now, again, you guys are at 23, nearing 24 billion for your top 300. What would you attest that to? What would you say are some of the big factors and big reasons on how the alliance and the kingdom has been able to maintain itself as a top?
I think from kind of where I view, 10,000 feet looking down, is definitely GG always tries to put its members and community first. So we do, as an R4 core, I think we probably have one of the best ones in the game. But we plan meticulously. We try to always put our members in advantageous positions. We do our best to set them up in war. We try to not just have them sacrifice, their bodies, their resources on the line, and we get ourselves, and we keep finding ourselves in where we do, I'd say a pretty good job in Diplo, give us a good match where we might be even, we might be a little bit under them, we might be a little bit over them, but at the end of the day, we have like a on paper clean matchup, and then time after time we just think it's going to be really close, and we blow it out of the park, right? Like BXS, I think you covered it a little bit when they were coming off that season, the mega season with all the top. They came to us, and we had them straight up BXS versus GG. They were still bigger than us. They still had more members and stuff, and it was a hard battle, but we overcame them and pushed them all the way back. Same thing. We just keep getting, I think, great fights. We're not getting dodged. Some of these top alliances create these super kingdoms, and then they spend a whole KvK trying to get a fight because no one wants to fight them, and they run away from one another. So I think the past couple of seasons we've had nothing but great fights from Zone 2 onward, and it's fun. Like I said, we're very community focused. We know people have real lives. There's no, hey, everyone needs a login or I'm kicking you out of the
What? Real
alliance.
life?
Yeah, like so we try to just take that in account of just like, hey, like this is a mobile game. This is people's 11th priority. But hey, when you log in, we're gonna make it the most. We're gonna get the most bang for your buck and put you in good situations to where we're winning fights. And if someone can stay on for 12 hours a day, and awesome. If you can stay on for an hour, like great. Like any contribution matters, and like we really appreciate that. And like I said, our members keep coming out time after time and winning the big fights, and just a great kind of R4 core behind it that's doing all the tough work behind the scenes.
Yeah, we have KPC doing a lot of our KPC. That's basically one of my core 5, and he basically does not sleep. we always joke about that. He's basically our war lead since Uku stepped down, and everything. He takes care of a lot of stuff, a lot of planning and everything. But also he's backed up with a lot of people too, like Jock said.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Coco, let me switch some gears here. Why don't I'd love to maybe hear a little bit more about the alliance. Obviously, anything you can maybe speak to about how are you guys structured, right? What's the process as far as for? Because for me, I always find it fascinating on, especially I think for any kingdoms, for any alliances that have kind of stood the test of time, right? They've played multiple seasons together. Again, right? There might be the occasional shakeup, positional leadership change here or there, but for you all, based on kind of what you're saying, it seems that you've been able to take a solid core group and stay pretty well intact, along with essentially having a successful level of sustainability after eventually moving to a new kingdom that is still going to today. And so for me, I love, I would love to know, obviously for how much you might be able to say and or speak to is what's the structure setup for GG?
Okay.
For yourself, maybe let's just go like R5, R4. Are you sole decision maker? Is it, hey, we kind of do this group body of everyone contributes and provides their input? Is it more kind of democratic and council setup? How does that work, and what's the feeling about how that process plays out?
Well, one of the things we always try to keep forward is that we always strive for change and strive to do better. And we all come from different places. Like I said earlier, the current GG R4 team is no longer like the OG GG that were back then. There's only a very few of them, and I don't think there's any actually left. Like Oku is still like in the background, but he doesn't do much. He's just there, just to be there as an honorary member.
Okay.
But he doesn't make decision or anything. The way we're structured, essentially, right now, is we have a council, uh, a council of 3 R5. There's me, KPC, and Eagle. I'm basically taking care. I used to be the only R5, and I was basically overseeing everything. But we changed it to a format that's more like I'm mostly overseeing the internals affair, diplomacy, recruitment, dealing with member day to day if they have issues and everything. KPC is much more into war tactics, trying new strategy, establish strategy to go around things, planning the buildings and everything. And Eagle, meanwhile, is basically our data guy. He is the one that he always has been doing data since season one. Eagle has been my and that's also the funniest part in this. Eagle was my R5 in season one.
Oh.
And after he stepped down, we basically merged because me and Eagle, we come from server 87. And like there's some people that are known from 87, like Mustard Wolf and God Made Me Stone. Some people that are notorious from that server. And it's because 87 was a mess. Anybody that came from there can tell you 87 was just awful. We basically broke up and nothing was unified. And in season 1 plus, I think day one, 87 was dead. So we basically merged into DR89, which at the time was led by a group of R4, R5, and KPC was one of them. So we basically got to know, we went up the hierarchy of that, and we basically got to know them, and then we did the same with GG when we merged with them. But to go back to whatever the things, we basically have our own vision, our own past of things that happen. So we always bring our experience, but we usually try to go to the same consensus as the council. Technically speaking, like in technical term, technically DR5. So I'm the face of the alliance. I'm the one dealing with like a lot of the little things like that. But I wouldn't be going anywhere without those two, to be honest, as well as the rest of the team. But and we could add more people to that, but we try to restrict it to a very few members, so we can just have decision made at the council. And council is it's mostly just for very very important decision. It's like the most crucial stuff that needs to be kept from the public eye. It needs to be dealt with. If at first we need to come to a decision between us, and then we go to the R4, which is the other thing. We have like the second layer, which is the R4 officer right beneath that, and all R4 officers that are actual officers have a role, and they do so that you have diplo, you have recruitment officers, you have war leading officers, you have builders, and then below that, that's the thing that personally I had it ever since I became R5, is the helper role. The helpers are just smaller R4s. They're there to learn the rope. They're there to learn how to be an actual R4, learn the little tasks, the day-to-day thing. So some of these people are just there to be tested. Sometimes they're actual R4 that just want to take a break, but they want to help out, like making the Alliance Resource Center or accepting people inside the Alliance and everything. So just basically doing maintenance. So those people are helpers. They don't want to be necessarily officers sometimes. They want to keep being helpers, and they don't take part in the big decision made by the Alliance, essentially. So that's basically where we have a 3-layered level of leadership. That's how we're basically working our system.
Okay, gotcha. And essentially, it almost sounds like what you're saying with the 3 people. It's kind of like this high council setup where is it like each of those 3 people basically get a vote, or you're saying the entire council, everyone kind of gets one vote, at least for big decisions, as you mentioned, and then it's just kind of majority wins at that point.
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
Okay.
We have not been using vote yet. That's so far, but it's pretty much like, oh, I'm in favor for this idea. The other one is like, no, I'm not in favor of this, and then we discuss it out. And it's like I've known KPC for seasons now, since season 1 plus. I've known Eagle since season 1. So like we all know each other well, and some people even joke that basically me and KPC we sound like an old couple arguing all the time. Uh, but no, it's basically the vibe we have going sometimes. But we understand, like we know, like we trust one another and everything. And like I said, we basically have our own past of things. So we have always tried some of the things. Like for example, we tried to have a very small team of R4 in the past at GG, and that did not work out because every single R4 got burnt out. Some R4 were dedicated to certain time slots or certain job, but the problem with this, without backup, if that person leaves, you don't know whatever happens. So you always try to have like a little backup, not necessarily two people for the job, but always like at least someone has to be there if that's like possible. We try to cover as many people as possible. Like right now, I have like for example, I have a Russian R4 because he has access to Telegram. With Telegram, he contacts his friend that are Russian but don't have access to Discord. So I just reach out to him and he reach out to them. Same with
Nice.
the Arabic people. We try to basically keep everyone in touch as much as possible, and yeah, that we were trying to be strategic about it as well.
Okay. No, I mean, actually seems like a good idea. I think they use something called VK as well, or I thought it's something I had heard was um, VK, and I'm forgetting what it stands for, but I thought it was something out there in Russia or Asia. There was another one. I know sometimes people will be using oh, come on, I'm already forgetting the other thing now. What is it? Oh, like something like a WhatsApp. I think I've heard of some people using that too as well for international. But no, I think that's great as far as you kind of aiming to reach out and trying to have some level of engagement and inclusion for any of the players that may not necessarily speak the native language or the one that might be the majority used by the group, to try and have as
Hmm.
many people feel like, hey, even if you don't speak the language, we still want to make an effort to reach out, translating, anything and everything that we can to try to make them feel as welcome, as involved, and as looked after as possible. I think that's, I think it's something very underrated. But I think I can only imagine how appreciative those individuals will be. Jock, let me switch gears if I can, and maybe talk a little Diplo with you. So, again, I know that is one of the main things you've been doing. Now, you diploed this last season, and then if so, how many other seasons did you diplo before that for the team?
So last season was kind of like my first, like I was kind of like a assistant.
Okay,
So I was in the channels. I was Coco was the lead, but I was in there, and when he wasn't available, I'd be a liaison kind of. So this is my first season as like the Diplo, reaching out,
okay,
getting the contacts. We
okay. Well,
joke that
no, I think this should
Coco's
be
like,
good then. So what I would want to know is, so I guess basically what you're saying is you kind of shadowed, like you shadowed, helped out here and
yeah,
there, where it was okay. So this is interesting because I think this is a great, and Coco, I know you mentioned this too as well before, where I think it's great when you kind of talk about having people that are in potentially like R3 like positions, or really just anyone. It could be anyone from an R1 to an R3 essentially, right? But someone who's a non officer, a non R4, that is essentially a contributor to the alliance. They're still helping out, whether it's with tasks, if it's filling in here, supporting, providing some time here, maybe assisting here and there to someone, even if they're not an officer. I have always been such a major proponent of this, and also utilizing it as a way of some kind of like on the job training. Again, which segues perfectly into essentially what Jock was saying is kind of doing the shadowing, paying attention, being involved in the conversation, seeing how the Diplo point of contact is conversating, what is being said, what's not being said, what's being offered, what's not being offered, paying attention to tone, mannerisms, like all these things are so important to, because I used to be a main Diplo myself in Rock and also did it for my jump projects. So being able to kind of have a system set up where you allow for some form of education to be done and also a level of comfortability and confidence to be built. So I guess Jock, I'm curious for you, getting the introduction, how did it feel for you kind of coming into the shadowing position last season, especially with just how many eyeballs were on that KvK? Because that was a big KvK, not only for you guys, but for all those involved. Of course, despite kind of what happened to one team in some of the Fallout areas. But for you going in, what first and foremost, was it something you were interested, like was doing diplomacy something that you wanted to do? Like, were you the one who kind of reached out, or did Coco or someone else ask you about it? And then secondly, how once you started getting in and you started seeing everything play out, did you feel a little overwhelmed, or was it more of, no, this is pretty exciting, I want to learn some more?
Yeah, I think I kind of volunteered myself to kind of help out.
Okay.
And I think I really wanted to do it just because a lot of eyeballs, but honestly, I cared about our community and our members, and I want to see them, like I said, kind of in the best position. So, and I mean, meeting new people and talking to new people is always like a fun perk of it, like reaching out to all the G2s, all like a bunch of great people, and it's like I never probably would have talked to them otherwise. So it's just the role interests me, and like I said, being there and being kind of like the spokesperson for you know GG and our kind of great brand I feel like we have got going on is a plus. It's easy to talk about us.
So what was your, let me follow up to that. So in your experience, I guess for what you saw last season, having those conversations, and this is interesting that you say that, where you feel that, GG is in like a pretty, positive light, in the sense of that, it's not like anyone is maybe, and I don't really hear this at all, or at least on my end, which is like, oh yeah, let's not team up with GG. F those betards, right? We don't want to mess with them or any kind of thing like that. How does it? I guess in your view, did it really come across more so as like, hey, we have a good reputation. We haven't, done anything egregious to any kingdoms or anyone out there. So it feels like, we should have good opportunities to ally here or ally there, maybe depending on what the other kingdoms want to do. But I guess, what was your feeling? What was your interpretation going into the diplomacy conversations? Like, did it feel as though, hey, this is pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. There really wasn't a lot of negotiating or a lot of back and forth as far as when it came to kind of like solidifying matchups, again, whether that's something you partook in or kind of watch as a shadow. Like, I guess and I guess the second part of that is, was there anything that stood out to you? Was there anything interesting that you maybe learned along your shadowing time doing Diplo last season that you didn't expect or maybe caught you off guard?
Ooh, I think the hardest part of the Diplo is just going into that season not understanding rewards or how any of
Okay.
that worked out. And even like this upcoming season, I kind of feel like the game sets up to where you have to ally with people, but like the reward structure is just not there for, either your allies, to all kind of get a fair bite out of the pie, like everyone contributes, everyone has their own roles and expectations and stuff, but it's like, I don't know why, but just the game, it feels like keeps putting us in situations where like, yeah, we're allied, but this ally gets the best rewards, this one gets the second place rewards, and this one gets the third place rewards.
Yeah.
So it's just like a really weird where it's like, we want to maintain good relationships and like we enjoy working with people, but it just kind of like, even this upcoming season, I feel like people are going to get like kind of a bad taste in their mouth when they don't walk away with the dragon, even though they work their ass off, and even the second place rewards I was looking at the other day are just like very difficult to obtain. So it's just like, hey, we had a great season, great fights, but it's just this weird kind of like, we're kind of allies, but like not when it comes to the rewards and, whatever capacity. And then it's just purely relying on the devs to give us good matchups, that makes sense.
No, I know, absolutely. more or less couldn't agree more with that. I think that has been, I mean, obviously, even just with as many videos as I've already covered about end of season chaos for reward distribution. I feel like I've done 4 or 5 or so of these already, and it's just, yeah, it sucks to see. As you again, I felt like as you articulated very well, everyone's contributing. It's not like and obviously outside of those that can contribute more or less, right? There's going to be some variation here, but the fact is it's not like any able kingdom, able alliance is going into the KvK sitting there thinking to themselves, oh yeah, obviously we don't care about end of season rewards. We're not going to contribute. Doesn't matter to us. No, I feel like everyone that can contribute and is able to, it feels like they are, right? I don't think I've heard of anyone that is able to fight in PvP that just fought a 0% amount of time. Now, again, maybe some fought more, some fought less, but to kind of have this ultimatum thrust upon kingdoms and alliances and their player bases at the end, instead of maybe having some kind of like shared union rewards that are maybe equal outside of and like where basically you make that the primary, and then maybe the secondary is individual rewards, right? If you want to do that kind of based on behemoths or other factors. And I mean, I think that they have done some improvements over the last few seasons, but I just wonder if, again, as you alluded to as well, is it enough? Is it something where we're going to be able to get away from this, what can be at times relationship killers? And we've seen this happen already, right? Where some kingdoms have betrayed some of their teams, and for a number of reasons, but it has lopsided what was going to be potentially agreed upon rewards to now being a totally different distribution of where those are going. So I guess, Coco, I want to pass this off to you. Do you feel similarly to Jacques when it comes to end of season rewards? And is this something that you guys have thought about as far as what would you like to see change from that? Do you think there is a solution to fixing that? Is it one of the things I mentioned? Is it something else? And what has your experience been when dealing with end of season rewards as well for KvK?
Okay, so I honestly agree with Jock in general with this because the the thing is it also depends from people to people. Like personally, I don't care much about the end of season reward myself. I care more about the content of this season, which is something that we kind of all learn from Noir that having an easy access to the last zone does not guarantee like a long-term sustainability of your alliance. If basically you're not giving, you're like, sure, you get the reward, but you don't get the fighting. So you want to get the fighting, but then we circle around and we're like, oof, oh wow, we fought so much this season. Okay, what's the reward now? And we look at what we have, and it's less than what we expected. And I'm not saying as a group, I'm saying as individuals. Like some people value their time more than others regarding that. And sometimes, like, yes, I can agree that like it's unfair for some other people. I'm like, are you sure you contributed as much as you think you did and stuff like that? So it sucks because everybody wants their share of the pie, and obviously none of the pieces are made equal. And like we're kind of like in this awkward state of, oh, we should team up, but also maybe we should not. But then how do we deal with this? Because one of the key problem why, for example, FFA, KvK do not happen for the most part, unless there's some big drama going on or whatever, is that there's no way to lock out a kingdom. There's no way to eliminate the threat. So let's say you manage to get dragon. Well, now you got 6 server. You're now 1 against 6, and it's like it's impossible to hold that thing for so long. And there's too much reward given to the dragon itself when it should be like more spread around. Like it's much more interesting to see people go out of their way to invade zone and get like hydras from other zones than actually getting dragon. Getting to dragon is easy. Like that's the part of the thing that's kind of weird, where the game mostly it feels like we're more encouraged to betray our own allies than actually fighting forward our enemies and actually try to complete the objective. Because like as much as like pushing through a pass and everything is like it's hard. It's pretty demanding. As much as defending or invading a zone one it's hard. It's demanding and everything. It's a thrilling like feeling when you manage to do it, and then you get a reward that get like if you get a reward past that, that's great. But like just getting like oh this is the one thing that's in the middle and well, you guys teamed up. You were together with this all struggle, but now I want the piece of the pie. Now, like it's I don't know, like it just creates more negativity in the whole community, and that's one of the thing that sucks with the Call of Dragon community in general is that it always feels like there's always, especially with the whole G1 server, there's always some old drama hanging around. There's always someone angry over some reward not being shared properly or something about betrayal because they wanted this and that it just does not it just does not entice players to work together, but at the same time like the design makes you want to work together. Like it's kind of confusing in a way, but it leads to a very toxic like very toxic community around and everything. And I don't know, like this is personally my opinion. And also coming from 87, I've been through some real bullshit. Like this is one of the reasons why like back in the day Eagle stepped down because we were betrayed by our own ally because our ally was bored and wanted someone to fight. So they basically just like kick our teeth in. And then we basically had finished our own season with the RD9, and then some people just made some drama and left because they didn't get the reward they wanted, and stuff like that. Like it's really bizarre and dumb. And because of this, we lost very core important people to the RD9, and we were emperor in the next season. And then at that point, it felt like everything was like a betrayal, and like we've been like when Uku was R5, we also had like a Diplo situation where we had no control over anything. For example, that TATA season, essentially they said, "Oh, we want to talk," and then we said, "Yeah, we're gonna start in this zone. What do you guys think? Where do you want to? How do you want to set this up? You want to all start in the same same side of the zone, or do you want to have your side and we build up to zone 4? Blah blah." And they basically cut conversation and they did everything to just invade our zone 1 and have a day 1 fighting. And like they kept taunting people around and saying, "Nah, we're gonna fight," and they built their fortress right next to us. And that was like the infamous day 1 PvP opened up and we kicked their ass. But like that KvK diplomacy and every like they with TATM constant accusation of cheating and everything regarding botting when there was no actual proof and stuff, like it all served to just promote this like weird vibe where like we were basically like the villain of the KvK and everybody wanted just to just jump on us. And it's that's the thing that personally that's why I prefer to have a situation where we can fight, but also like there needs to be a matter of respect too. Like I don't appreciate when people trash talk to allies. I don't appreciate even if they trash talk to enemies, but I don't mind banters and I don't mind stating fact. So if someone like comes up to me and says something, I won't be shy to just turn them away and just no, this is what happened. If you want to make your own story, what it is, it's not what happened. But obviously, at some point, we just have to let it go, let things go, and just some people just want to stir up drama. They just want to stir up some stuff, and I'm not into discussing further when people just want to cause issues over nothing.
I think kind of tying it back to the question, like I think the super simple thing is at a certain point in Augerstone, you can warband cross zone ones, and then that'll allow like allies to like, hey, Dragon's conquered. Okay, we're kicking our farm shells out. Let's get our allies in, and then we all get rewards. Like I feel like that's just like a super simple thing.
Yeah, that does remind me that is one of the coolest thing that happened in this whole game. Which I think you were witness to that back in the day, Boss Nasty, was that in season P1, by the end of the KvK, we had like this little side project. That was just to remind you everything. That was the season we were against ROE, NTS, and Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
We had like this little conversation. I had this little conversation with a guy, a player named Demon that sadly quit the game now. But basically, Demon and I, we spoke together, and he was in Howl, I was in GG, and we were talking about what about we do like a surprise push, like at the very end, like at the end of the Augerstone, when we can join any alliances and everything. So I was basically setting up a a shell slowly, but like I was trying to be as
Mm-hmm.
subtle as possible, but just setting up a shell. And then I challenged like the GG leadership at that point because we were done with this season. Everybody was like, "This season is done. We don't want to fight." Blah blah. And then I just said, "No, we have to push. We have to fight. Like, I don't care. Go to zone two. Like why zone two? Like, there's no objective. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Just fight. Let's just start a fight." And I had like this, like one of the R4, he's free to name himself, but he basically told me, okay, if we can get, I think it was like 120 members online, then we fight. But if we don't, well, we stop all PvP action for the rest of the KvK. And I was like, okay, bet we do this. And yeah, we pushed in, and then afterwards, like when the Augerstone came, we had like this team of like all-star. Like we had basically had all the big guys from Owl, the big guy, some of the big guys from GG, some of the guys from DBB. We all came in together. Some guys from NTS also joined up in the middle of it. I think someone from ROE joined in, and it was like we made the surprise party, which was like that like temporarily alliance that just existed at that point in time to never exist again. Like it was just there to be like, okay, we're there now. We're gonna push, and we're gonna have like we're aiming to take their magma, but it doesn't matter. Like we just wanted to revive the fighting spirit. Like we wanted everyone to just join in and fight. And it was like 5 days or something, and then the KvK ended. But it was pretty thrilling and pretty fun. And that personally gave me a taste of being an R5 because I was not an R5. I was like a little R4 that was just minding my own business on the side. Um, but like just the idea of like a a giant push, like a giant like opportunity of like, hey, at the end of the Augerstone, allow warband like for people that are ally, like allow them like to a certain freedom to join together, like especially like last season with SOS 3, where you could have like a situation where oh look your ally like he cannot fight like for like I don't like. I'm just gonna say names, but whatever the situation. Like you say, pay to win and Kong. They were like, oh, we're in a difficult situation, and they're like, okay, all everybody go to EIS and BXS starting zone, and then we push zone 3 together, and then we fight to get the rewards from the Necro all together, and we're all on the same side. Meanwhile, we're like, oh, we could be reacting to that, be like, oh no, we need like backups, like that would be basically, keeping the fighting going and have something to look forward to. Instead, we get a zone where we have rocks, we have to steal rocks, and nobody's interested in that. I'm sorry. Like nobody has been interested in past 2 seasons of trying to invade zone 2, not as zone 1, as zone 2 for a behemoth that gives no reward, basically. Like it just sucks. And like that's why like it would be nice if the dev would basically look at this idea of like allow just people to like back in the day where people could suddenly join any alliances at some point in time, by the end of the KvK, just to make things more interesting in terms of like surprise push or surprise fighting. Like
Yeah.
this is something that people have been looking for. Like now, it's like the thing they tried to do was like that zone 4 where you build fast and everything, and that was a huge miss. Like it was absolutely a disaster.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's disappointing when on average your final zone uh, PvP is essentially being decided within less than half a day, and
Hmm.
that I think is one of the most disappointing things. I do. I'm okay with them testing things. I'm okay with them trying this idea out, but I think based on how it has played out, I hope that they do not have any more accelerated final zone pushes anymore. Maybe
No,
there could be some areas of acceleration, but I would almost argue let's just do a full reverse on that. Hey, that was nice to test. Maybe analyze, look at the data afterwards, get some feedback. But yeah, hopefully they don't. Aside from that, I will say this: the thing I did like that you said, Jalk, and then I know Coco, you piggybacked off of it as well to add on, is this idea of, back before home kingdoms were established, back before they eventually came out with that you can no longer join any other cross kingdoms, right? And one of the things they've cited from that was due to some of the data or something like that on the back end, because I think they had answered a question about that in one of the Q&As recently. However, when it comes to the end of season rewards, I honestly think you're hitting the hammer right on. I think you're hitting the hammer right on the head at that point, right? As far as because to me, it's like one of two ways. You either have to come up with a revamped reward system to equally reward the kingdoms and or alliances that meet certain task objectives, and or if you want to give contribution rewards out, maybe you give contribution awards out to the top performers from that team, which again is that collection of kingdoms. I think at least when it comes to the end of season rewards, for what you said, starting it off, Volk, was there, Jock, was that, yeah, if you allow the players to be able to move, maybe even if it's after the final zone is open for a little while, right? Or maybe at least a decent amount of time, maybe before the end of season awards. So it allows for players to maybe redistribute themselves, right? So you can say, okay, hey, look, right, we're, here, everyone kind of shares their data. Maybe you have someone who's just doing like team data for the group. And then you say, okay, hey, here's our top contributors, or here's people we want to volunteer, or people that we want to put their name in the hat to be considered for, you know, these positions at certain end of season reward stages. I do think that's something that would help very much so. I think they could even just do a combination of this, because it feels to me that the way they have it set up now is that there's this level and amount of isolation that occurs where, because what if we, I mean, even just from me covering it, I mean, there's been a number of KVKs I've seen where, I mean, let's be honest, everybody wants the best rewards. And everyone is usually saying, hey, I'll go for this reward first, this one second, this one third. And oftentimes, I don't know if I want to say oftentimes, but sometimes, again, it has caused rifts. It's caused what was a winning season to then become, oh, now all of a sudden we're fighting against season. And some people are getting pushed out, and sometimes it gets resolved, even though it feels like less than likely. And so yeah, I agree. I think those would be some nice solutions. Let me transition a little bit here if I can, because I know we're kind of coming up to about an hour here. So Jacques, what I'd love to know from you, maybe for one of my last two questions, so I'll go to you first here. What are some things about the alliance, about the kingdom, that you think stand out, that you think differentiate yourself between maybe other kingdoms, other alliances, or maybe just some unique identifiers that you think really makes GG, and obviously now 68, a special place to be at?
I think for the most part, and I kind of hit on some of this, I think we have a very mature R4 core. A lot of us are in our 30s, married, families, and like we understand like the importance of it. So we value everyone's time when they do come in and play. So we have this like super strong R4 core that's going to do everything in their power to give our members the best experience. And then just GG has become this, I don't know, just this ragtag group. I feel like that just there's a lot of people from a lot of different walks in the world, and we all just kind of mesh and get together. And yeah, sometimes cross languages, it's hard to communicate, but come wartime, that gate opens, we're flooding in, where we got all our members on, and we're nonstop for 3 days straight, until the bells rung. So
Gotcha.
I think overall,
Until
just
people die. No, I get it.
but I think we just care for our community, and like we don't just view you as a number. And hey, thanks for coming. Your numbers are a little low, so we're gonna need you to leave, and we're going to bring the next 150 mil in who wants your spot. Like we don't operate like that, and we operate more in community. We talk to people. We know some people are like, oh, they're really busy at work, so they're not going to do that much this season, but they'll come back next season. So like, I think we're just very community focused, and that's like the best part that I like about it. And then just like I said, solid R4 core, and like some groups can only take wins, and they hit their first loss and then they disband. Like that's not us. We're gonna be here. We're gonna continue to be here, in whatever shape or form that may look like. But right now we can just say, hey, so far, look at our record. Look at like our past 4 or 5 KvKs. We've had like some of the most action, the most fighting, and we're not getting dodged. We're going right into a bear fight and coming out. So it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. No, thank you for that. Coco, to you, before we wrap up, you guys opted to skip for this upcoming season 3. You are going into the Gen 2 pool with a number of other strong kingdoms, strong alliances, but what could very well be the largest KvK pool in history that we've seen so far. Obviously, we'll have a better idea here in less than 24 hours, once, at least as of recording this, once we see how many kingdoms are going to register. And then again, hopefully the registration period won't take too long. I have to imagine, because you and a number of other kingdoms did opt to skip, how much are you looking forward to this upcoming season? And is it something that at the end of the day, you and the team just felt strongly enough, like others did, to skip compared to registering? What is it that you're really looking forward to in this upcoming season?
Honestly, would be first of all, I cannot wait for the season to begin because Home Kingdom is still boring. It's it's not as bad as it used to be, but yeah, one of the things we want to focus on is meeting new people, because one of the one of the main gripe we have with G1 is that we've been fighting each other for like a year or something. We kind of want to meet new people, but the main reason I'd say, like, why we feel strongly about it is just um kind of like I'd say the past two 3 seasons we've basically been at the front of the new content, and at the same time sometimes we've been encountering bugs with said content. Like, for example, we did not get alliance mobilization in the season it was introduced, even though we were basically one of the first server and we were a day ahead of everyone in terms of content. So it was just bizarre. Um, so not getting after 3 seasons of just being the first guinea pig of the new content, and I'm just tired of having to plan out everything at the last second, and then to realize that, oh, if we had planned this out differently, like for example Fellowship, we could have planned these way better if we had known in advance how they would work, and a lot of things has never been clear, and has been a constant problem. So this is one of the main reasons why I cannot wait to see what's the new content, but not be the first to touch it, if that makes sense. Um, and yeah, and obviously, some people have been eyeing for Gen 2 as well. So some people are gonna go their separate way from GG, as well as some new people are gonna join GG that are in G2, that are interested in joining GG. So again, it's mostly meeting new faces and not being at the front of new content. That's the main things that are exciting me about what's coming up. I'm kind of curious to see already without McQuay how fights are going to be, because this is the thing that's been plaguing our existence since it has been introduced. Um, so yeah.
All right. Well, no, thank you for sharing. So last kind of quick question I'll give to both of you is, and Jacques, we'll start with you. What is something in the game that you view as, okay, hey, you know, maybe I'd want to change this. Maybe I'd want to have it to see it removed. Again, it can maybe be one or two things that really stand out to you. And then secondly, what's one or two things you would like to see either changed for the better or maybe added to the game?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I
There's
think
a
we hit
lot.
on it. I think just
Very
these are
much why I
community.
limit it.
Yeah, these are community games, right? And like, you can't fit everyone in your community, so it'd be cool to have like building communities with communities, right? And like I said, we just had a long conversation about end of season rewards, and right now, like, you can't do that, right? Like, you get it, you don't get it, and then you move your ways, and like that's the relationship in some cases. So it's just, I think like them fixing that will cause like even maybe bigger communities to like form. Um, I think one thing that's weird is the server caps are still just, some servers can get up to 25 plus bill, others get capped at 21, 22. Like some of their numbers on the back end of what they count as players are kind of like odd, and it's becoming this weird. Even though there's a set number, we're starting to see kingdoms get further and further apart in terms of just like raw power. So I think hopefully that's something they can fix or look at. But overall, I just, you know, I think they took away the thing we hate the most is that make way as well. That was just like, you could have complete field control, but you can keep a bastion filled for 3 hours because make way lets you run into it.
Get that little what is it, 30-second invincibility or invulnerability, whatever it is.
No,
You just
it's
couldn't
Between
intercept them.
intercept. Yeah, you can't be intercept. Yeah,
You
I'm using
just
the wrong term. But yeah.
city hop up to a bastion and you get in every time.
Yeah.
so
I guess that's why the
essentially,
big people parked close.
Yeah.
yeah, you have the big T5 whales just parked next to the bastion, and they just, they basically make it rain with infantry, and you can't do anything about it. And it's a pretty toxic tactic. It's the most efficient one, but it still sucks to deal with. So that's something that we're looking forward to for this change. One of the things, like the things that I'd want to see change is definitely uh like having more stuff that members can apply to. And by that I mean, for example, row.
Okay.
Like having like a system of role where you could say, oh, members can apply to this team, and they can participate in this role at this point in time, or have more um battle for the abyss available without the hospital bill. Because one of the key problem that I've been personally seeing over the past few seasons, and it's you can especially see this problem with Old Kingdom. It's the fact that people want to fight, but they don't get the fight when they log in, and that's a
Mm.
problem. So, like, by making like say things like Battle Abyss more available, like say, oh, you shouldn't be fighting Battle Abyss, but like, hey, you got some free time, you want to use it? Do you want to just fight a little bit and have some fun with the game? But yeah, then yeah, sure, go ahead. And because right now, if you go into the Battle of the Abyss, it basically throws your troops in the hospital, which is like it's not usable when you fight in a KvK because you need your hospital to fight, and also you cannot do this in Home Kingdom over and over because if you do it once in Home Kingdom, you're stuck with the build that lasts a week basically because the regen sucks.
Mm.
And to go back to my point regarding row, it's mostly because at GG we basically have a system where we have competitive row and casual row, and our casual row is just we have a bot, you apply to the bot, and we look at the list and we say, okay, you can apply to, we will make the team and apply these people. But obviously, there's the human error factor in this, where sometimes we look at someone that applied, but we can't find them because in game they were in the wrong shell, so they cannot be added to
Mm.
the road team. So instead, they could add the option of making a road team and you can apply to it, like making an open team.
Mm.
So
So like
people could
almost where
just
the players can
apply.
apply to time slots, and then you can kind of select
Ex-
those people from the time slots, and then basically move them over to a row roster.
No, but like you don't need to have the officer in it. Like that's what
Yeah,
I mean. Like they could pop in and just refuse somebody if they see on the list, but they can't. They don't have to be there to affirm a list. If that makes sense,
yeah.
because that's one of the problems sometimes we get into is like some people are like, oh, I want to join row, but like they're not in the like I said, they're not in the wrong shell, and like some with the competitive one, we restrict to certain members, and like we look at them and like yes, we look at how we want to build the team and look at the strategy behind it. But for most of the casual row that we call, it's just like people just want to fight.
Yeah.
They just want to get their point, they want to get their heads, but they don't care about the strategy. They just want to fight, and that's the critical part of the game is that there's like not enough ways to fight, to test things out, to have some fun. Like literally, personally, I'm always on trial, just testing stuff over and over, and that's literally the only way I get to enjoy being on the game and being in Own Kingdom
Mhm.
because I'm like, oh, I want to test this setup. Oh, I want to test this, and I replay the same scenario over and over, but it's boring. I gotta admit, it's very boring, and nobody can do like this over and over. But like, I could go on some other games like League of Legends, start a game right away, like play with people. I could play a actual game of League of Legends, or I could play some ARAM, or like just a short version of what the game offers,
Mhm.
just to give some I have some just to satisfy the to satiate the people that want to have the fight, that want to have the content. And like there's really lack of content just in general, just to do in day to day. Like you just okay, there's an event, okay, you're basically done, or you do the alliance mobilization, and it's all about, well, buy pet coins, buy gems, use things to buy bundle, whatever. But it's not about like working as a community or just say, oh, get X amount of merits or kill X amount of legion or whatever. Like it's none of that. It's just most of the events, like the big events, the big rewards, is all about spending. And it's also a point I want to bring out regarding GG in general. I know we're never going to be the number one alliance for one reason is that we do not put forward people paying, essentially. Like if you're part of GG, we want people that are active. We want people that like they want to play the game, they want to work with us, they are nice people that want to reinforce the community and everything. But we don't want someone that's just there to to drop the paycheck and drop all the gold chests, and and we want just people like that. Like we know this is basically what's going to make number one because that's how you get all the troops, you get everything because you have all the resources and everything. But what's the fun? That's not where we're at. We want to have the fun by playing the game, by playing with people, by fighting the people. And that's why I'm saying like we're always advocating just the idea of like, you know, have more interaction have more ways for people to, you know, work together, talk together, and just be together as a community. Because that's the problem with the Call of Dragon community in general. I'm gonna stop after that to talk because I know I talk too much. But it's the fact that it always feels like the community is just fractured and the pieces cannot go back together because of very little issues that could be easily fixed. You know?
No, man, I will say the fractured and the isolation parts, very much I felt that way, when this was prior to them having home kingdoms, and it just always kind of gave me this sense of, everyone's kind of on their own like Japan island, so to speak, because you just don't really know, who else is with you in the world, especially
Mhm.
when, you don't have your home kingdom in place. So you don't really know every single player that's in your kingdom. You don't know, uh, what all their stats and their details are unless they make themselves publicly known and they share that, hey, they're in your kingdom. And it was always one of those things that, sure that I kind of liked the idea at first and thought it was something interesting and a little bit different of an approach, sure. But when it came to just organization, structuring, kind of like logistical nightmare in a number of places, across a number of different thresholds. So, no, I can obviously I understand you're referring to that in a different capacity, but I can understand where you're coming from. So, well, listen, fam, we are at around an hour 16 right now. I cannot thank you both enough, Coco, Jalk. This has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you sitting down with me, taking some time to let me in, to tell me a little bit about GG, let me learn a little bit about not only the community within the kingdom, the alliance, how you operate, what your thoughts and your feelings are about KvKs, about the amount of diplomacy conversation that we have, which I really enjoyed, shockingly. Well, I guess I shouldn't even say shockingly. I mean, anything that kind of, I get to, I get to get a little down and dirty with management, is always exciting for me, at least. But man, thank you guys so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Any final words, shout outs, declarations that you'd like to make? Joel, go ahead, and then we'll go to Coco.
No, I just think we're really looking forward to working with a lot of new alliances we haven't. I've been talking to a lot of them, and they all seem super great and awesome. So just kind of how KvK lines up, I'm looking forward to a good season, and looking forward to great fights.
Awesome. And what Jock forgot to mention is that if you guys don't like Mickey Mouse, you suck. Coco, go ahead. So.
Oh boy. I mean, uh, what can I say? Just for the memes and stuff. I think I'm just gonna say, gang on top. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Got it. Death to the infidels. We get it. All right, guys, listen. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. And listen, that's it. You guys let us know out there. Hopefully you enjoyed this talk, this interview with GG. Again, currently what did I say for you guys? Currently number 8 Kingdom, number 5 Alliance as of February for 2025. And hopefully this will not be the last opportunity we have to interview some other top alliances, other top kingdoms, and speak to a number of different leads, management teams, and maybe even their officer corps. That's going to do it for us. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.